Here comes Bernie. Now, while the results of the Iowa caucus continue to be pretty close, razor thin, Bernie Sanders holds a 6,000 vote count, vote lead with the popular vote, and slightly behind in delegates as of right now, with about 97 precincts reporting. The Sanders campaign has just announced that it raised a staggering $25 million in the month of January alone. 25 million in a month. That is by far the biggest fundraising month of the senator's campaign and a larger haul than any of his 2020 Democratic rivals had posted in any full quarter of 2019. So the entire year, nobody got in one quarter above $25 million. That is amazing. Now, the campaign said over 219,000 of the total 648,000 January donors were new donors. So that is amazing. The average donation, of course, is around $18. The jobs, the professions that were the most represented was teacher. Teacher is the most common profession of January donors, and the most common employers were Amazon, Starbucks, Walmart, the United States Postal Service, and Target. So these are regular people, right? Working class people, regular humans, not giant donors and big wine caves, right? Or executives at Comcast, but regular working people. And that's important. And since they are regular working people, that means about 99.9% of Sanders donors are not maxed out, since they cannot give the maximum amount. That means they can give again and again. Now that right there is people power, and it's amazing. Now, Fez Shakir, Sanders' campaign manager, said, quote, Bernie's multiracial, multi-generational, people-driven movement for change is fueling 2020's most aggressive campaign for president. Working-class Americans giving $18 at a time are putting our campaign in a strong position to compete in states all over the map. Now, speaking of the map, you're going to love this. New polling out from 538, that's Nate Silver's outlet, right? They now have Bernie Sanders expected to sweep the nomination in 49 states. Take a look at this. Look at that. Who will win the Democratic primary? Bernie Sanders has a 1 in 2 chance, more than anyone else, followed by, and this is my favorite part, followed by literally no one. No one behind Bernie Sanders. That is amazing. Oh my God, somebody please go check on Nate Silver. He's got it. Is he okay? Is he okay? Check on this guy, okay? It's to make sure he hasn't hung himself in a closet, okay? Now, the New York Times also, they had something called an election needle, right? And I'm going to show you an example of that here. The election needle, hold on. This is the New York Times election needle, okay? And so it's got a forecast. Who's going to win Iowa, right? That had Buttigieg at a 95% win probability. Very, very likely, right? Bernie Sanders, barely possible at 1%. So now that's before the Iowa caucuses, right? And that was before we got to about 97%. Following that, we have this. The needle has been suspended. Bernie Sanders literally broke the needle. He broke the needle. Wow. Now, not only that, but he has been breaking a lot of brains as well. And so let me give an example. This is Dr. Jason Johnson now making the case that we should get behind Bernie.
But here's the thing, and I think this is very important coming out of Iowa, and I'm going to say this is very, very candid. If Democrats care about winning in the fall, if this ends up being a contest between Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete, then people need to probably rally around Bernie Sanders, because Mayor Pete's ability to achieve, his ability to actually expand the voter base outside of Iowa doesn't look good. The guy is barely at double digits in almost any other state. Yes, he got a little bit of a bump in New Hampshire, but he is about to get rolled in Nevada. He's going to get rolled in South Carolina, and then he's going to be going up against an expanded field of people like Mike Bloomberg and Steyer when we get to Super Tuesday. If Democrats care about electability as opposed to voting their heart, they really need to think about these top two candidates and which one can expand the base.
If you care about electability, you should be looking at Bernie Sanders. That's essentially what he's saying. Because he said there's no path for Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg is going to get rolled in the South. Why is that? African Americans will not vote for Pete Buttigieg. And of course, all they have to do is look at what happened in South Bend, Indiana. Holy crap. Again, Dr. Jason Johnson, if you're watching this, you can unblock me on Twitter, brother. Seriously, because right there, you made a lot of sense, all the sense in the world, right? You were right. I agree with you. Oh, that's weird. Okay, anyway, but hey, willing to start off on the right foot now. But look, as far as electoral results go and predictions, because that's what they're doing right now, right? Anything can happen. Please do not take any of this for granted. Bernie Sanders hasn't won you haven't won the nomination until you've won the nomination, right? But this shows that he's in an excellent position to do so. He actually has a real path forward, but there is a ton of work to be done, which means volunteers, canvass, donate, knock doors, but also, and I think this is important, reach out to people who support other candidates. Because right now, the case can be made. No, you don't understand. Bernie Sanders is electable. He's not only electable in a Democratic primary, but he's electable in a general election too, as he can bring in independent and Republican voters with his policies who actually care about healthcare. And so he is electable. He can win. He has the money behind him. He has the army behind him. He is electable. More great news, by the way. The Sanders campaign also announced that it plans to boost spending and staffing in Super Tuesday states. And they're going to spend a $5.5 million television and digital ad buy in 10 states. That's Texas, California, Arkansas, Colorado, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Utah. This is your 50 state strategy. Now, that differs, going back to Jason Johnson's point, Mayor Pete, right? Mayor Pete's laser focus was on Iowa, and so he was very competitive there. And also now is because of that bump, somewhat more competitive in New Hampshire, right? But that's it. I mean, look, Pete Buttigieg, again, does not have an actual plan to win the nomination. He's not going to be able to. Now, you also have another candidate that's spending a lot of money. That's Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer is focusing mostly on South Carolina, right? That's the only other candidate that's actually spending a lot of money on advertising and actually has a lot of money to spend is Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg has his own fortune. That's why he's not in any of these fundraising numbers, even though he has a massive, massive money advantage over Senator Bernie Sanders. And of course, that's why Johnson brings him up as well. It could end up being Michael Bloomberg versus Bernie Sanders in the end of the primary. Joe Biden's basically done. He got destroyed. And then Pete Buttigieg, he's going to fall off after New Hampshire. And so are we going to see Bloomberg versus Bernie? I hope so. Why is that? Bloomberg already is buying his way into the debates thanks to rule changes by the DNC and Tom Perez. So we're going to see not the next debate, but the debate following, Bernie versus Bloomberg. And that's going to be good for Bernie because Bloomberg's record is a disaster. And there is one concern that I have about Bernie Sanders, and I don't think look, my concern is that he's not going to be as aggressive as he needs to be. against Michael Bloomberg. And now that he's definitively the Democratic frontrunner, they're going to be gunning for him massively. Not only mainstream corporate media, but whatever candidates are left in that debate that qualify for the next debate, they will be out for Bernie's blood. So, Bernie Sanders, he's never been in this position as frontrunner before. And they're going to lob everything that they have him. And I think he's aware of that. But I think he still has to go against his nature of not being aggressive. I think he needs to attack Bloomberg on his record. And I think he needs to do it in the way that he can. Salty Bernie, go after that record, stop and frisk. That's one of the main things that he can go for. The fact that he was a Republican up until about 2007, cheered on Bush's wars, all that stuff. That is the record, and I hope he goes after it. And I think, and I hope he can distinguish himself and prove himself to be the most electable candidate to take on Donald Trump. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.